Early in my career as a financial advisor, I worked with another advisor who was absolutely up to his eyeballs in debt. And I always thought to myself, like, how could you advise people on how to manage your money if you can't even eat your own cooking or follow your own advice? So it's always been really important to me as a financial advisor to eat your own cooking, take your own advice, live within your means, live within a budget, save, invest wisely. If you're going to advise people on how to manage their money, you better be following the same principles yourself. And that's why in today's video, I want to pull back the curtain and share with you exactly how I manage my 401k as a financial advisor. If you're new here, hi, I'm Ashley Micciche. I'm a financial advisor, and for the last 18 years, I've helped my clients retire with confidence. And my goal on this channel is to help you simplify all the complexities of your own retirement so you can focus on what really matters, and that is living and enjoying your retirement. Right off the bat, let's talk about how often I check my account, how often I log in. And you'd be surprised, not very often. I can go 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 months before I log into my account. But I do think that it's important to log in at least quarterly. So most 401k participants are not that engaged with their 401k plan. Yes, there are people who are logging in every single day and they think it's laughable that people don't log in and don't know their balance. But the reality is that we all have busy lives. A 401k is not something that you need to micromanage in order to see it grow. But you do want to log in enough that you're checking some of the important boxes. How is your account performing? How are your investments positioned? Do you need to rebalance? Checking your beneficiaries, checking your contributions. A lot of people think that they're maxing out or contributing 10%, and they're not. So there can be errors, your payroll provider, what you thought you filled out on your form, and what you think you're contributing and what you're actually contributing could be very different. I see these mistakes all the time. I see people who go in and they rebalance their 401k, and they only change their future contributions, but they didn't actually rebalance or reposition their current investments. And so if you're not logging in regularly and then going back and checking when you make changes to your plan, you're setting yourself up for potentially big mistakes. Okay, so next, let's talk about how much I contribute to my 401k. And that's easy. I max it out. And I've been maxing it out since my income was high enough to allow me to do that. And that's for the last 12 years or so. So I was fortunate enough in my very first job out of college, I was actually working as a financial advisor right out of the gate. And so I wasn't making a lot of money because I was mostly paid on commissions. And the salary that I was receiving at that time was just not enough to allow me to max out, not even close. One thing I knew, because I had a finance degree and I was a financial advisor, I knew the power of time and compound interest. So I didn't want to waste my 20s traveling and driving an expensive car and living in like a super nice urban apartment like a lot of my friends were at the time. I set all of that aside and I had a nice used car. I lived well below my means. I didn't go out very often. I didn't travel. Because I knew future Ashley was going to really appreciate the fact that 22-year-old Ashley was saving 10% of her income and eventually getting to the point where she could max out, and it wasn't going to be this huge financial burden because I had not let lifestyle creep as my income went up and my savings went up along with that. Okay, speaking of future Ashley, another very conscious, very deliberate decision that I make when I invest in my 401k is that all of my paycheck contributions go to Roth. Now, there's a big misconception that if you make too much money, you can't contribute to a Roth, but that's only true with Roth IRAs. You could make $1 million, $10 million a year and still max out your Roth 401k. And the reason I choose to max out my Roth and have been since I've never actually put a single dollar of my own paycheck contributions into the traditional or pre-tax 401k bucket. Since day one, I have always done Roth. And I do that because I don't care about the tax deduction in the current year. Even though, from a tax standpoint, I could benefit from it, I know future Ashley is really going to appreciate this. And because I work with so many retirees who are having to take forced minimum distributions every year from their IRA once they reach 73, I know I don't want to be in that boat. So, a Roth 401k, you don't get a tax deduction in the current year, but it grows tax free. And then in retirement, when you're taking the money out and using it for your own retirement and your expenses and all of that, it is tax free withdrawals. And then fast forward, if I don't use up my Roth IRA at that point, because I will take it when I retire, I'll take it out of the 401k, I'll move it to an IRA. And at that point, when I pass it along to my heirs, it's a tax-free transfer of wealth, and yes, the current rules state that they only have 10 years to withdraw all that money, but they get to do so tax-free. All right, let's talk about how I'm investing my 401k. Now, keep in mind, my 401k makes up about 20% of my overall financial assets, including my investments. So, if I include taxable accounts, if I include my Roth IRA from my previous employer when I left and I rolled that over into an IRA, there's that. I have my 401k. So it's about 20% of my overall financial investable assets. You want to look at your 401k in the context of the bigger financial picture. And that's exactly what I've done when I've positioned my investment portfolio. Now, most of you listening, I would suggest that for the vast majority of you, a target date fund is going to be the best fit. So, as a 40-year-old financial advisor who is at least 20 years away, probably from retirement, how I've positioned my investment portfolio, it's about 95% in stocks and about 5% in bonds. And of that, about 1% or so is in cash. And I don't even think I have to look, but I don't even think I have a bond fund. I just have investments where, like, some of the mutual funds that I'm in the 401k, they might have a small allocation to bonds or cash, and that's really how I invest in bonds. But primarily, I'm in stocks. I want growth. And then within that, if you look a little bit deeper under the hood, I have mostly large cap, and that is split between growth and value. I have very little mid cap. I have maybe 10% or so in mid cap, another 10% or so in small cap, and then I have about 18% in international. And that is actually a bit more aggressive than a lot of people might be in international. It's been a great place to be this year in 2025. I'm not complaining. My 401k is doing very well, but beyond that, the important thing is that it's complementing how I'm invested elsewhere. There's not too much overlap in that, which is really important when your 401k is just a piece of the overall pie that is your financial and investment accounts. Okay, here's my word of caution to those of you who are investing in a target date fund, or you've put everything in like the S&P 500 index fund. The US stock market has never been this concentrated. Right now, as I record this in 2025, 40% of the market cap of the S&P 500, which is where most of your target date assets are concentrated, all of your index funds, they're all trying to mirror the S&P 500 index. 40% of the index is performance, and the stock and the capitalization of that index, 10 companies, invested in just 10 companies. And what's happened over the last 10 plus years is that all the big tech names that we all know have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And because of that, and it's a market weight index, not equally weighted among all 500 companies, it's market weight. So the biggest companies get the lion's share of the dollars or the percentage that are flowing into a S&P 500 index, and by extension a lot of these target date funds that you're in. And we saw this a little bit, a hint of this in 2022. The market went down and the big tech stocks were down 20, 30, 40%. So my concern is that I don't know when the music's going to stop here, but when you have valuations of a lot of these big tech that are pretty stretched right now and the market is at its top, it's never been more concentrated. That is a recipe for a deep, deep losses when the sentiment changes, when the economy changes. So you want to be cautious about that. Where the market is, it introduces, I think, in my opinion, unnecessary risk because of that over concentration. The last piece of this that I think is incredibly important is that I have never, ever once taken a 401k withdrawal, like a hardship distribution, or a loan. These are incredibly damaging to your overall long term wealth building power of your 401k account. And so I have never, you want to treat it like it's a last resort. I get it. If you're going to lose your house, if you're going to get evicted, and literally your 401k is literally the only thing that you have left to tap into to save you from that, then that would be a circumstance where you might consider that. But if you are not in dire straits financially and you've not run through all of your other options, you want to treat this like it properly needs to be treated, and that is as a long term financial asset for your retirement. It is not a piggy bank that you can tap into when you need to. So, my challenge for you today, log into your 401k account, especially if it's been a long time. Check your balance. Check your beneficiaries. Do you even have beneficiaries? I had a client 401k plan recently where the owner reached out to me because one of his employees had passed away. The employee was not married, didn't designate a beneficiary, had a long term girlfriend where I'm assuming he probably would have wanted that money to go to her after he died, but she's not listed as a beneficiary. They weren't married. So that's going to go through probate now. And I don't know. Good luck seeing a dime of that if you're the girlfriend. Check that your contributions are going into the right bucket. Are you doing Roth, traditional, some combination of both? What's the percentage of your pay that you're saving? If you're intending to max out, is that what you're actually doing? Or are you maxing out based on like what the max out was 10 years ago? Because a lot of these 401k plans and a lot of these payroll providers, they don't adjust. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button, hit those notifications. Don't miss a video when I post it. I'm focused all on you and your retirement on this channel.